This is the web application exercise in Python. I have the project open along with the README file. Let's work through. We're going to primarily focus on the objective 1, so the first objective. We will spend a little time on objective 2 here as well, just because we can do it as a part of Visual Studio Code. We're going to start off by setting up our virtual environment. We're going to use the VENV tool to do that. Normally we've been using pypenv. This one's a different tool for managing our virtual environment. So we'll do that, install the requirements or the dependencies. Once that's done, we'll implement our use case. So given the user navigates to the home page of the application, when the user enters some text into a form, like a text box, they'll type in something and hit submit, so maybe a button, then the system will display the reverse of that text that was entered. We'll use our tests as we typically do through pytest. And then once we're done with all that, we'll actually run the application and see it work in a web browser. So let's start off with the command here for the environment. Open up a terminal window and let's run that. So it's asking if we want to use this environment for the workspace. I'm going to say yes, we do want to use that. So now that I have that, I need to activate it for the terminal as well. So what it just prompted me about is, does Code Explorer here, so the Windows, does that want to use the virtual environment? But I need to tell the terminal to also use that. So I'll go into the VENV folder we just created in the scripts and type activate. This will activate the virtual environment and we'll see the green.venv to tell me I'm in that virtual environment. Now that I have that up and running, inside the environment, I can run pip install -r requirements.txt. So -r is saying the requirements file is in this requirements.txt. So these are all the different packages and their versions that we're going to install as a part of this. So we'll run through that. There it is. We have everything installed. It's telling me there's a new version of pip. I'll probably do that upgrade here in the next couple of days. But at this point, we're ready to go. So I can run pytest as a part of the command line, or I could do it as a part of the window. I'll just do it here just because it's nice to be able to run the tests on the testing window. So I'll configure Python tests. This is pytest, and I know that because we've got that specified here. So I'll say it's the pytest framework. It's in the tests folder, so I want to use that test folder for the tests. There it is. We'll run this, and we do get a failure, which is exactly what we'd expect. So now that we've got that, let's walk through the test and then we'll see if we can figure out how to get the failure to actually pass. So our test here, we're importing this mirror web from app.main. So there's some folder called app and some file called main.py. Sure enough, there it is. So here's the app folder and the main.py. So we're importing something called mirror web. And this is using something called Flask. Flask is the package we're going to be using today to build the web application. So we're going to the mirror web, which is actually a Flask object. You can see that when I hover here, and it's creating a test client for it. So think of a test client as like a browser without a visual element. So it can make all the web requests and get us back the HTML, but it doesn't actually render anything on the screen. So there's our browser emulator. I'm going to post to the /. I'm going to post to the home page or the root page in the application. So there's there's several different methods. The 4 main methods are get, put, post, and delete. There's also patch, there's also options. There's several other methods as well, but the 4 main ones, get, put, post, delete, are the main ones that we typically see. This is a post. So a post is a lot like a form submission. So when you click a button on a page, it will oftentimes do a post, an HTTP post back to the web server, and it's posting data. So it's saying, here's some information, do something with it and tell me the response. The data that we're posting is a Python dictionary. So it's a collection of key value pairs. So it's pairs of data with a key and a value. So key 1 equals value 1, key 2 equals value 2. So it's a bunch of different things. The keys are important and the values are important for those keys. So in our case, we're having 1 key value pair. The key is text and the value is the word testing. So what this is the equivalent of saying is there's a text box on the page with the name of text where we've typed in testing into that text box. So that's what this is basically saying. All that is packaged up into a dictionary and posted across. Follow redirects is basically saying if you get any 300 level messages instead of 200, which is okay, the 300s are going to be redirects somewhere else. So we're saying yes, automatically follow any redirects that happen. Once that comes back as a response, we're going to make sure the status code is 200, 200 being okay. The 2 primary 200 level successes are 200 and 204. There are others as well, but those are the 2 main ones we typically use. So in this case, we're saying it should be a 200. Then we're going to get the response data, the content that's coming back, which in our case is going to be HTML. We're going to find the word testing. The B says convert it to a byte array. Don't worry about that too much, but we're basically finding the word testing in reverse. That will give us the index, the 0-based index. If it's not on the page, it will return -1. So what we're doing is we're saying make sure that the index is greater than 0. So make sure the word testing in reverse exists somewhere on the page. So this is failing right now. Let's take a look and see where it's failing. We'll notice that it's actually failing. So the arrow here, it's failing on the find. So it must have responded back with a 200, so that's good. It's simply saying we got a -1, and -1 is not greater than 0. -1 meaning the word testing in reverse does not exist on the page. So that's what's going on with our test. We need to actually get this to work. So in Flask with web applications, there are going to be a couple of different files we're going to use. The first is main.py. So main.py will notice it has an index route that's mapped to the home page. So this is the method or the function that gets called whenever we request the home page. It's saying respond to methods both get and post. So if it's a get, which is just a web page view, or if it's a post, which is a form submission, call the method below me. The name of the method doesn't matter. I simply called it index because it represents the home page, but this could have been anything. I could have called it chat. It really doesn't matter. So this is the index page. We're going to basically return a function, render templates. We're going to call the render template function, and we're going to say render the template index.html. This is going to be in the templates folder here, and sure enough, here's the index.html file. This is the actual HTML that gets rendered onto the page. We're going to need to change these two files, main.py and index.html. So the index.html, this is where we're going to, and I've just got a little placeholder for you. This is where we're going to create our form. And then the main.py is where we're going to respond to that and reverse the text, and then send the reverse text back to the form itself. So it'll start here in the HTML, it'll go to the main.py, and then back to the HTML before it gets back to the user. So let's implement this. We'll start off, and this is a good time to do an internet search on Flask. So if you want to do Python Flask example form post, you should get quite a few examples there on how to do this. So start off with a, let's just do a form element. And method, we're going to need to make sure that's post. The action I don't really need to specify, but I'll go ahead and specify it as the home page just to make sure that's clear. Now inside, we're going to need an input element with a name of text. So this goes back to the test. Let's go back to the test. We want this name here, text, to be, or the value to be the name of the input element. So let's do input. I'll do type equals text. That means it's a text box. This is not the name. This is saying this is a text box. It could be email for an email address. It could be phone for a phone number. It could be checkbox for a literal checkbox. It actually renders differently. So this is the type of control that we're rendering. Text is short for text box. So this is just text. But there's a name attribute. This is what needs to be text. This name is what binds to the values and HTTP requests. So there's that. We'll close this, self-closing element. Now we're also going to need a submit button that the user can click on. So we'll say input, type equals, submit. And that's really all we need to do. Now you could give it some text if you want by specifying the value. You could color it, you could style it however you want to do it, but I'll just make that straightforward. So here's our post. This is going to send data back to main.py. So now in main.py, inside the index, we're going to need to get that text that was posted and reverse it and send it back to the web page. So this is going to respond to both a get and a post. If it's a get, we simply want to do what we were doing before. Otherwise, if it's a post, we want to do something different. So let's just say if request, now I'm going to need the request object from Flask. So if request.method equals post, actually let's just do get. So we'll say if it's get, we will simply return what we did before. So all we're doing is rendering the web page. That's all we're doing on a get. Otherwise, we're going to do the rest of our function. I don't necessarily need the else. I'll keep the else in, but you can get away without doing the else, in which case this if block becomes a guard clause. I'll leave the else in for now. So here what we need to do is, since it's a post, we need to get the text. So they hit submit. That's why we're in a post. So let's say text equals request.form.get. That's exactly what we want. Not too much. Don't jump ahead of me now. So request.form.get, and we're getting the name text. There's other ways to do this. I can actually just go in and get it by index because this is coming in as a dictionary. So let's just do that to make it simple. Now that we've got that, we need to reverse the text. So we'll say reversed text equals text, and then : -1 is our way in Python to reverse the text. So that reverses the text, and then finally what we're going to do is send the text back to the template. So we do need to return render template. I'm not going to type all that out because I want to do something a little different. And this will also be index.html. And now we need to specify the value. So I'm going to say reversed equals reversed text. So reverse text is the value that we're sending back. Reversed is the name we're going to use back in the HTML file. So remember, I said we had to send it back to the HTML file. Let's do that now. So this reversed, we're going to use now in the index HTML. So what I need to do after the form is I need to display that reversed if it exists somewhere. I'm going to use some interesting syntax, %if, and it's helping me out. This actually is very much what I want to do. So I'm going to go ahead and tab. So this is %if. This is Flask syntax to get us into Python code so we can dynamically decide if something's rendered or not. So if reversed exists, this is what this is saying. If there is a reversed, then create a p tag and use this binding to say display what's in reverse. So that's what these double curly braces do. It says whatever's in the variable I specify next, just display that to the screen as a p tag. And then we have to end the if. We have to tell Flask that we're done with the if. So there's a %end if, and then we're done. So this renders out the reverse text back to the screen based on what just happened. So a few different things. Again, we've got our form. Method is post, action is the home page. We've got an input that's type of text, but the name is text. That's what's the critical piece here. Submit button, that's going to, when you click on it, that's going to submit the form to main. Once in main, we're going to get the text, we're going to reverse it, and then we're going to re-render it and pass the reverse text back. And then finally, if reverse exists, we're going to render that out. Let's see if I've got the test passing. I do. So this is now getting the test to work. Everything's running there. So now that that's all done, let's do the last step, which is actually run this in a browser and see what it looks like. It's great to get the test working, but it's nice to be able to see our work and see how that actually runs. So what we're going to do here is in our terminal window, so we are going to do py app main. So we're going to run the main file through Python. So we're going to run this. It's now saying, hey, here's your URL. It's 127.0.0.1:5000. This is localhost, so I can also do localhost:5000. Again, if I hold Control and then I click on this, this will open it up in a web browser. All right, so here is our form. Not very pretty, but I can type something in, Chad's awesome test, hit submit, and it reverses it. That concludes the web application exercise in Python.